on April 16th. It's been a case that's kept our detectives constantly moving and going for the past over a month now. Very involved, a lot of ups and downs in this case as far as emotions and everything that they're dealing with. So I ask that everybody keep them in their thoughts and prayers as they continue to work diligently on this case. On Sunday, May 20th, our investigators received the autopsy and toxicology report, the official report, from the forensic pathologist the autopsy took place in Washington County. They did not receive the results until May 20th, at which time the detectives were able to go over the results and use those as far as their investigation, the official results. So we're not releasing that information until today. However, the autopsy listed the final diagnosis in the cause of death of the young male as electrolyte imbalance, most likely due to gastroenteritis, which in common layman's term would be vomiting and diarrhea, and that resulted in dehydration. The toxicology report on the child was negative, nothing of significance, no results in the blood test to give our investigators a further answer. Other types of testing were done by the doctor, but there was no anatomical cause of death listed, no significant traumatic injuries, and the child appeared to be of normal growth and development. So once again, it's a very odd, tragic case, very sad case. Once again, it's kind of not the answers that we're hoping. Obviously, when you're waiting for an autopsy report, you're hoping that you'll get a definitive answer, something that we can really work with. But the official result, again, is listed as electrolyte imbalance. I can read the official listed opinion verbatim, just so you have it. It says, death in this male child of unknown age is attributed to electrolyte imbalance. This is most likely, excuse me, this is most likely secondary to a viral gastroenteritis. Blood toxicology studies are negative. There are no significant injuries. So that's what our investigators received and what they have to work with at this time. Again, this case is ongoing. There's still a lot of work to go, to be done, and they're looking into lots of different avenues. So even though it's not what most people might expect to hear on the results, our investigators are actively working very hard. A lot of things that they're doing, a lot of more advanced technologies that they're utilizing. So having said that, we do want to remind the public that if you know of a black child that fits this description that's missing, give us that call. Our investigators need that information. We want to emphasize that of the documented children that are missing on the missing children's list across the country, those have been looked into. We're working with the Missing Children's Clearinghouse, with other agencies, if they have a child that they think could be a possibility. Those have all been looked into. At this point, there's no match on any child that's listed as missing. So we want people to know that. We're not saying that there could not be a possibility, but at this time, there has been no match. And we're working hand in hand with all the other authorities that deal with that. We receive a lot of calls on the suitcase itself. Obviously, it's very distinctive. We're hoping that will give some information. We want somebody with firsthand knowledge of seeing that suitcase in a situation that could possibly be connected with this case. We receive calls all the time about where the suitcase is sold, who manufactures it, the different outlets that sell it. We're well aware of that information. We don't need that type of information on the suitcase. It's been well looked into by our detectives. But if somebody has firsthand knowledge of seeing that suitcase in this area, that would be different, and we would definitely like to have that information. So again, we're still waiting for that call of somebody that has firsthand knowledge of a child that fits this description, that is missing, or that they don't have the correct answers for, that might be a lead in this case. Again, it's a young black male we believe to be around the age of 5, 46 inches tall, which is just under 4 feet, approximately 40 pounds. He's a slim build. And again, he was located on April 16th in rural Washington County. So again, that's the information we have at this time that's new as far as the autopsy report and the toxicology report. So at this time, I can attempt to answer any questions.
The Indiana State Police, are you investigating this as a homicide or still a death investigation?
At this point, it's going to be a death investigation. You know, it can always change as information becomes available. Again, you would think with the autopsy you might have something more distinctive, but there's lots of different avenues that this could be approached from. So our investigators are very open to not precluding anything, and therefore they're open to all ideas. So they're not going to say, you know, this is only a death investigation or anything like that. They have to keep their mind open to all possibilities. But at this point, with what they have with the autopsy report, is just saying that it's an electrolyte imbalance.
Can you put that into perspective for us? Does that just mean, you know, he just died because he was in the suitcase, or kind of what does electrolyte imbalance?
Well, I'm not a doctor, so you'll have to contact, you know, the possibly the coroner's office or the forensic pathologist. But basically, again, as I stated earlier, he lists electrolyte imbalance most likely due to gastroenteritis, which is vomiting and diarrhea. The child, I can say the child was found clean. He was clothed. He appeared to be, you know, at least somewhat cared for. So that's, again, not what you expect. But again, we're not talking about, there are no significant injuries, nothing on the body that the doctors could find that said this is a cause or this could have been possibly a cause. They found no significant injuries. So the main thing was listed as the electrolyte imbalance. Again, I'm not a doctor, so you may have to find an expert to tell you exactly what that means.
As far as the suitcase goes, do you have any idea about where it was sold or purchased or anything?
Well,
or anything you would be able to let us
as far the investigators have looked at a lot into the suitcase as far as if they have personal information on specifically this suitcase, and they have looked into this suitcase pretty much any way you can. They're not going to be releasing any information as far as if they know where it was actually sold, but we do receive a lot of calls of the stores that it was commonly sold at. You know, somebody was on vacation and they saw it at this airport being sold, or it's very common to hear that Ross stores sold it. A lot of people said they found it in a Goodwill store in a different city, those types of things. But again, if they have firsthand knowledge, you know, around that date of somebody that, you know, somehow this might be connected with this child, that would be the type of information we need. Where it's been sold across the nation, our investigators are well aware of that information.
Can you just explain how knowing the cause of death now either helps or doesn't help further the investigation? Did it take you guys a step further or not?
I mean, any information is going to help further the investigation. I mean, it does cross off answers, you know. It would have been possible for the toxicology report to come back with who knows what kind of results, saying this was in the system that's abnormal. They did not get that information. They got a toxicology report that said there was no, other than natural substances, nothing abnormal with their toxicology report. And again, I'm putting that in layman's term. I'm not a doctor, but that would be my understanding. So that is an answer. I mean, knowing that it wasn't this and it wasn't that caused the death, that opens up more possibilities sometimes, but it also precludes other possibilities. So, you know, any information is helpful. It may not be, you know, the type of glaring information that they were hoping to get, or maybe assumed we might get from a toxicology report, but again, it's still information that they can use.
The description of this boy could apply to so many people. Why not release a rendering or what kind of clothes the child was wearing?
Right, and that's been discussed, but again, the main thing is if somebody knows of a black child who fits this description that's missing, they need to give the call. Having a picture shouldn't make somebody all of a sudden recall, oh, that child. If they know of a black child who's missing.
But what if they wouldn't know the child is missing, but they could recognize the child?
Well, again, there's many different reasons, but sometimes, you know, diagrams, drawings, sometimes those renderings can lead to misconceptions as well. So it can open up a Pandora's box of people saying, well, I thought it was this child, when possibly not. So at this time, they feel it's in the best interest of the case not to do that.
Aside from the tip line, what other things are you all doing to try to figure out who this child was?
Right, there's lots of things going on in the background. Again, I mentioned earlier some very advanced technologies. I can't get into those, but they are doing lots of different things that will hopefully ultimately lead to those answers.
Is there any indication that he was alive when he was put in the suitcase?
I can't speak on that.
What do you want people to sort of take away? Because you're saying you checked all the missing databases and that's not working, and you know it kind of seems like, you know, we we can't really do any, I mean, what do you want us to do after telling us sort of this information?
Again, somebody out there knows. He was in a zipped suitcase. You've seen the suitcase on TV. He's in an enclosed suitcase. He couldn't put himself in that suitcase. Somebody did. Somebody knows something. You know, sometimes it takes time, but eventually, you know, we're hoping we'll get that call that somebody has firsthand knowledge. Somebody out there has firsthand knowledge on what happened in this situation, because he did not show up in the woods on Holder Road in Washington County by himself. So somebody has information, and we need that person to come forward. Again, all the missing children's databases have been rigorously gone over. They still go over. It's an ongoing process, and that's not led to anything. So the tips that we receive on the tip line haven't led to any hard, credible, you know, evidence that's, or a direction to give us, give the detectives something to sink their teeth into. So we're still looking for that firsthand knowledge if possible.
Are you still getting a lot of calls into the tip line, or is that slowed down?
They have slowed down over time, but yes, they are still getting tips. Again, a lot of the tips are the same information. We receive the same information for the same child. For example, Cody Bigsby, numerous times, still to this date, which has been verified. It is not that child from Hampton, Virginia. And that's been stated time and time again, but we still get that information. We receive a lot of information on investigative techniques on the tip line. Nothing hard that says, you know, I know this, or hey, I knew this child and I haven't been able to contact him, or his grandparents haven't had any contact with this child for a while and they're suspicious. Nothing like that, but we do get a lot of calls about, have you thought about investigating it this way or that way? And I can assure the public that our detectives have not held anything back. There's a lot of stuff going on in this investigation, a lot of very advanced technologies.
Speaking of those, is DNA part of that?
I can't get into the specifics, but just rest assured that, you know, pretty much anything that's available to our detectives, they're utilizing that information and those technologies.
How frustrating is it keep asking kind of for the same answers?
Yeah, it's very frustrating. You know, personally, I would have never expected to be here on this date after he was located on the 16th and not have some of the answers. I think everybody was hopeful that the autopsy would shed some more light that they could really utilize quickly and jump into, but getting a result that says, you know, it wasn't this and it wasn't that is helpful, but it's, you know, maybe not what we expected. It's still helpful though, but it's very frustrating. Our detectives do get tips, and many times, you know, it can be very exciting thinking you've got something that's going to be really great, and those tips and those leads are tracked down to the very end and realize that it's absolutely not involved whatsoever. And so it can be emotional, and it's something that they desperately want to get the answers for, and they'll keep searching and they'll keep working until they get what they need. But again, a lot of stuff is going on in the background, a lot of technologies, as I spoke of, that hopefully in time will render some answers. Some of the technologies obviously take time, even the toxicology results. You know, they do those things and they find things they want to delve in even deeper, so it takes more time to get the actual results back because they looked into everything they could think of.
Did the autopsy clarify anything about his time of death at all?
I can't speak to that at this point as far as having not gone through the whole report myself, but mainly the cause of death was the main thing that I'm here to speak about today.
There were no signs of negligence.
There was no traumatic injuries or anything like that listed. Basically, you know, his terminology in the report was no anatomical cause of death, no significant traumatic injuries. So basically, as I stated earlier, he was clean, he was clothed inside the suitcase.
You mentioned he had a solid growth, so that age, you said something in there about the autopsy saying that his bone growth was...
He stated normal growth and development.
So does that mean 5 years old? Is that...
Well, or again, we're approximating, so he could not give, and he states that he does he states unknown age, but based on the information that the doctor spoke with our detectives early on, they believe to be around 5 years of age, and that has not changed.
I know that you had checked with local schools and daycares to see for missing children. Are there any leads there that you're still pursuing?
I'd have to speak to specifically with the detectives, but to my knowledge, no, that's not the case.
So is there any indication this child was local? A lot of people have been saying where he was found was very remote, and you would have to know where it is. Obviously, that's speculation, but
Right.
are you, any indication either way, this child was local to maybe not even Indiana, maybe over Louisville?
The officers, or the detectives and investigators are keeping that open, and they're definitely not excluding the fact that he could be from out of the country. It's a very good possibility. He could be from another state, he could be local. Still, you would think that if that was the case, we would have found something by now. but they're definitely not ruling out that he's from actually out of the country even.
There really hasn't been much mention about the scope of the investigation. Is that indicative of anything, whether it's more of a local investigation or if it's, you know, on a state or a national level?
Well, we put this information out across the nation as far as what our detectives are looking into and who they've contacted. So as far as missing children, that's a national thing, obviously. And we work with a lot of different agencies, including federal and other state agencies, a lot of different companies as well. So it's definitely on a national issue investigation level, if nothing else. But really, again, if we had information that the child was from another country and we could investigate into that, they would also do that as well.
Sure. Any sort of, how would you characterize the response that you get in these sort of situations from other law enforcement agencies?
Well, they're very helpful. I mean, we get contacted by other agencies when they have a child, sometimes that they think, hey, this might be it, that we don't know about. They talk with our detectives to determine if it's a match or not. But again, so far that has been shown to be unfruitful.
It's been more than a month and the community's already planning a burial. Are you afraid that people are just kind of forgetting and putting it behind them?
Well, we hope not. That's why we do news release like this, so that we can put that information back out there to show what we've got. We try to be, obviously as transparent as we can. We don't want to do anything that's going to hinder the investigation, so that's why the detectives are very confident and strong in saying we're going to do this, we won't do that, but we do want to give the public the information that we can and do it in a way that doesn't hinder the investigation. So hopefully stories like this will keep the word out there. You're right, the community is planning a funeral on this coming Wednesday, and so we're thankful for all the help from the community and the outpouring of support, especially not to us, but to the child. We want to give him a voice. We want to give answers for him. If there's any family out there, there has to be family out there somewhere in the world. There's family out there, so we want to get those answers. So we're thankful for that support from the community. And again, the funeral will bring that to light again as far as keeping the word out there and keeping the story on the front page.
And can you explain why hold a funeral before the family is notified?
That's not in our hands. The funeral isn't planned by us. We're not part of the funeral in any sense, but again, we're thankful for whatever the community wants to do and that they're showing support, but you would have to speak to the community members about that.
Will the child be buried as part of the funeral? Or is it
Again, you'd have to speak with those authorities as far as who are handling that scenario or that ceremony. I'm not familiar with all that information.
Are the detectives that are working on this case only working on this case, or are they?
The Indiana State Police, we have approximately 6-7 detectives out of this post, and then they get assistance from other troopers, but other crimes occur at the same time, and in a perfect world, they could focus only on this 24/7, but other crimes do happen, and we have to work on it. We just had the shooting, the tragic shooting of last week and 2 weeks ago in Harrison County, and our detectives get pulled to that as a team. They do everything together a lot of times as a team, so it can be taxing.
Does the person or persons that are leading this investigation have experience or expertise with missing child cases?
Well, they work a variety of cases. Our detectives are well trained and get a lot of training, official training, but they've also had their feet deep into lots of different cases over the years. So, and we can draw on the expertise of investigators from other parts of the state if they need to. They get together and cooperate together, talk about the case, give out ideas from somebody who might have worked a case similar in another part of the state, and they work together.
But for missing children specifically?
Well, the state police has worked, I can't give you a number, but it's not uncommon to work a missing children's case.
When's the last time there's been a case like this around here, if there ever has been a case like this?
As far, in my knowledge, this case is different. I mean, this isn't a missing children's case where we have a child that we know exists and we know who he is or she is and she's missing. We have a child and we know nothing about this child, and nobody wants to come forward and say, I know this child, this is my child, or I know how this child got there. Nobody's coming forward when we have the child. It's almost a reverse of your normal case, so it's very different.
I just one question just for clarification. Was he dead before he was in the suitcase, or did he die in the suitcase? Were you able to tell?
I can't speak to that at this point. Maybe I can clarify that in the future, and I can speak, but at this point I can't clarify that information.
Do you feel like you all are close at all to figuring this out?
again, there's a lot of things going on, and you know, a lot of information, just like this autopsy report, they're just waiting for that time when they get the information. There's lots of things going on in the background, and you know, it could be tomorrow that they get the call on some of that information. So, you know, they're very hopeful. So, and again, they're not going to stop until until they have to. But hopefully, that time will come soon when we have the information that we're looking for.
Are you releasing a copy of the autopsy report?
We don't release it, but it is available through the coroner's office. Anything further?
Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Oh, well, yeah, sure. Okay, to answer the question, the lead detective on the case, this is the only thing he's working. So we have other detectives, but the lead detective, this is solely his puppy, and that's all he's doing.